Episode 49, The Battle of Ramsey Lake. Alex looked at Madison, who was pointing the gun at him. He felt depressed. I'm useless, he thought. I told Debbie I'd protect her for the rest of my life, and now I can't even avenge her. Go to hell, Madison said with an evil grin. But just as she pulled the trigger, a bullet hit the pistol, knocking it from her hand. As a result, her shot missed Alex and hit the grass. Madison cradled her hand in shock. What's going on? Quentin wondered if it might have been a stray bullet from one of his men, but when he looked at them, they were looking around at each other. No one knew what had happened. Quentin was shocked. Even if his men had fired, how could they have possibly hit Madison's gun? Who was responsible? The sky became darker. Is it going to rain? Quentin wondered. Everyone raised their heads to look at the sky. When they saw what was happening, they stared in shock. 6 helicopters flew above them, carrying a huge black curtain. It was impossible to estimate the exact size of the curtain. Is this a military exercise? Someone asked. What's that curtain for? Quentin rubbed his chin as he stared at the helicopters in the sky. They looked really cool. I'm the boss of the New York underworld, he thought. I should really buy myself a helicopter. The sound of the helicopters grew louder. They stopped above Quentin and then started to descend slowly, battering everyone with the wind they created. Some of the smaller students could barely stand. Students were afraid that one of them might land and injure them, so they scattered like rabbits. Dozens of men from the Azure Dragon Society stayed put. They were the bosses of the New York underworld, and they ran from no one. The 6 helicopters lowered the black curtain, blocking the sunlight, and landed around Quentin. The choppers all turned on their lights, and the Azure Dragon Society found themselves standing within a semi-enclosed space, unable to see what was happening. They were dumbfounded. What was going on? Quentin was panicking. He had only been the boss of a New York underworld for a month after going through a bloody battle. It wasn't common knowledge yet, so why would the military be looking for him? Several men jumped out of the helicopters and rushed toward the people from the Azure Dragon Society, who wanted to resist, but they knew they were no match for their opponents. Screams echoed in the darkness. Some of Quentin's men had their arms broken. Some had their legs broken, and others had been knocked unconscious. In less than 2 minutes, every member of the Azure Dragon Society was lying on the ground. Only Quentin and Madison remained standing, completely stunned. The Azure Dragon Society was the strongest gang in New York, and yet they'd been defeated so easily and so quickly. With all his men down, Quentin could clearly see the people who had defeated them. 10 men were left to guard the gang members, while the remaining 6 people rushed over to Alex. There were only 16 of them, but they had defeated 65 members of the Azure Dragon Society. The newcomers appeared to be in their 20s, and they were dressed in identical black clothes. They were all tall and sturdy. One man tore off his shirt and bandaged Alex's wounds. He helped him to sit on the ground and then kneeled beside him. Mr. Ambrose, we're the 3rd squad of your family's security team. I'm sorry we're late. At least my family hasn't left me to die, Alex thought bitterly. His family was one of the most powerful in the world, and they would always vigorously protect their members. Each area where members of the Ambrose family lived had a security squad assigned to them. Squad 3 had only been alerted to Alex's dangerous situation a short time ago. When they had informed the Ambrose family, they'd been instructed not to interfere unless Alex's life was in danger. As a result, Squad 3 had arrived late. It's fine, Alex said. I don't blame you. All he could think about was killing Madison. His gaze shot toward her without a shred of emotion. Kill her. Madison's legs gave way at his words, and she collapsed on the ground. These people could easily kill her. She was still so young, and she wasn't ready to die. Faced with the consequences, she deeply regretted killing Debbie. She was so scared that she almost wet herself. She started to mumble, I don't want to die, please don't kill me. Mr. Ambrose, did she injure you? asked the captain of Squad 3. Before they had left, the squad had been instructed to not allow Alex to do anything rash, so that they would need to have good reason for committing murder. "No, but she killed my beloved Debbie." Alex looked over at Debbie's corpse in grief. The captain frowned and signaled to one of his team members to check it out. "She's not dead," the man called as he squatted next to Debbie. "She's still breathing." "What?" Alex tried to rush to her, but 2 team members had already carried her over to him. He held his hand under her nose and felt a puff of air. His heart leaped in relief. "Quick, take her to the hospital," Alex instructed the team. He watched as they carried her onto one of the helicopters. Madison was even more relieved than Alex. When she heard that Debbie was alive, she was so happy that she started to cry. "What about her?" the squad captain asked, gesturing at Madison. Alex was so happy that he had almost forgotten about her. Madison's heart skipped a beat. "Find a way to sever her relationship with her family. Don't give her any money and just throw her out on the street," Alex said. If Debbie didn't die, then Madison could be allowed to live. Madison gaped in shock. She couldn't live on the streets. Separated from her family, she wasn't sure she would survive. She would be dead within a week. But she knew that was all the mercy Alex would show her. Alex turned his gaze on Quentin. Despite living in the underworld for so many years, Quentin was actually shivering with fear when he looked at the young man. These people have caused enough trouble, cripple the Azure Dragon Society and prevent them from controlling the underworld. If they try to rebuild, kill them all immediately, Alex said lightly. "Yes, sir." For them, destroying the entire city's underworld was easy. Quentin didn't even dare to breathe. He was just glad that no one had hit him. "They came here to cause trouble, and they don't fear the law," Alex continued. "So strip them and send them out of there naked. Let's see if they have any shame." "Yes, sir." 3 minutes later, every member of the Azure Dragon Society had been stripped naked, with Madison standing around them. It was like something out of the movies. The security team helped Alex into one of the helicopters, and then they all slowly rose into the air. Quentin and his men were left standing there completely naked. As they stood there exposed to the elements, quite a few students gathered around them, many taking photos. Fortunately, their luxury cars were still there. Quentin and his men had used their hands to cover their private parts as they ran toward the cars, wanting to hide in them and escape. But before they reached the cars, one of the helicopters came back down and banged into the vehicles. Each one of the luxury cars became nothing more than scrap metal. Then the helicopter flew off into the distance. "My car," Quentin thought. Looking at the wrecked Rolls-Royce, he nearly had a heart attack. Quentin and his men could only run toward the school gate, their useless car keys clutched in their hands. When they reached the street, they tried to hail a taxi, and even more people took pictures of them. The photos of Quentin and the others were quickly posted on various social networking sites. Everyone wondered why so many men had been attacked at the same time. No taxi wanted to stop for them. In the end, they could only walk the streets of New York with their bare bottoms on display. Wherever they went, people gawked and took pictures. Meanwhile, in the helicopter, Alex had fainted due to his injuries. Squad 3 reported Alex's status and received an order from his family to take him directly to Harmony Island. As the sun began to set, the 6 helicopters streaked across the sky in formation, heading east at high speed.